Okay, well, welcome. Beats. Take two. I am your host, Trey Fields.
It's too early. I can't do this. Yeah.
I'm your host, Trey Fields. Below me, Tabitha Robinson Scott. Above, Stephen Matos, directly off of RGB of yesterday. And the host of RGB on Tina Love Speaks Instagram, Damian Michael Williams. You know, it would be Tina Love Speaks without a technical difficulty.
Hey, it's the spice of life.
I think it's just part of our trademark.
Nothing was better though than the timing
Yes.
of like what Damien was saying, and then you being like, "You're
right.
gonna
And we all kind of
We were
look like,
okay.
oh, he's been in bottle kind of art.
Right. It's just like, okay. So as we were talking about, Natalie DeSalle Reed recently passed away. She's best known for her work on Baps and on the series Eve, but she is also part of the Disney family as the stepsister in Cinderella in the remake with Bernadette Peters as the mother.
Mm-hmm.
She's had such a stellar career. And Damien, you were telling us a story about her.
Yes. You asked prior.
Yes.
How does everyone feel about this?
Before the difficulties. Yes.
Right. Technical difficulties. Hey, it's part of life. But honestly, it was very disheartening and heartbreaking because, as I was stating, got a chance to meet her and know her in a few moments, different ones, through one of her cousins who I basically grew up with and sung with. And she was just kind-hearted, bubbly, cheery, crazy. So, of course, I got along with that, even though I'm just sane and soft as a rose petal. But hey, to see such a hero in my book, to fight that long and, stay as long as she did. And honestly, anyone passing during this pandemic is just, to say the least, horrific.
Yeah.
Because you don't really get to have that full last moment quality time with your loved ones. So I agree, but yet I also pray and see positive energy, love and light to her family, who is grieving way far more than we are. So yeah, that basically sums it up.
One of the brilliant things, though, has been, I guess, in the difference between her and Chadwick. All of the testimonials of people that have worked with her and were friends with her that have had said things are grieving aloud have had that same story. It's been she was the best fun. Like,
yes,
it was all about laughter and joy all of the time, even in her going through her struggle, because she was not public about it really at all, and so which is really sad as Black. This was something we talked about with Chadwick, being a person of color and having an ailment in the industry is you die before, like, your career dies before you can die. And so it's like you kind of have to bear this quietly with your circle. Which I found to be like a little, that part I think hurt more about it. It was like she died of cancer, like nobody knew. It was just like Chadwick. It was like nobody knew. You just didn't know.
Right.
But so, Tabitha, do you have a fond, funny memory of Natalie?
Well, anytime we lose a beautiful Black queen, I mourn. because I feel like she was yet another example of someone that walked the walk and talked the talk and led with integrity and honesty and laughter. And unfortunately, she will no longer be giving that gift to the world. So I think we all mourn that a little bit. And it was, like you said, it was a surprise. And in this time of the pandemic and COVID, it gets harder and harder to hear those stories. There's just so many. And I think my soul feels heavy today because I feel like I don't know how much more we can take or I can take, how much bandwidth I can deal with in terms of mourning the loss of another person. So, I'm grateful for the time we had with her. I wish she would have been around a little bit longer, but that's selfish of me. So I understand that her fight is now over, and I know she's up there making people laugh upstairs.
Facts.
True.
Now, Stephen, did you know who she was at all? Or
I didn't. I was unfamiliar, and yeah, I mean it's terrible, like Damien said. Anyone who passes in this time, I feel like not only is there this inability to have the last moments that you would have otherwise wanted someone to have had,
Right.
but I also feel like we're in this bizarrely chaotic time where while we're not doing anything, there's also, it seems that public attention is also more fleeting than normal, and that she likely is not only not getting to have the moments that she would have been able to have, but is also not being memorialized in a way that she may have also been in 2019, 2018, 2025. I mean, unfortunately, of the number of people who have passed away, I think they have unfortunately been made smaller news or dominated the news cycle in a way that was much that seemed to undervalue their contributions, and that's just another shame.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because I think that we have gotten to this place, and especially like this is normally the time of year where, even though we are shocked by deaths, but this is normally from Thanksgiving until the new year is where it's like it seems like people are checking out. But I think we have become so numb to death because
Right.
we have been strategically dealing with thousands of deaths since March, and they have not stopped. Like we've
Right.
had no break. Like as they say, most of the time it's like it deaths happen in threes, and it's like, well, that three has been multiplied by the thousands
Right.
since March.
True.
I mean, I think it's devastating to like, just like kind of how Tabitha was saying, like how much bandwidth do we have left? Like we can't. There's no more shock. Like you're saying, it's like I don't have nothing left, and we visually get to see both sides fighting against each other. It's like people that are really about pro-life aren't.
Right.
And the people that are for pro-choice are really fighting for life. It's really
Right.
a topsy-turvy.
True.
But as it takes us to our next segment, which I think is important more than this week than any, our mental health check-in. Damien, take it away.
Hey, my beautiful people, my host family, and also to our viewers. Two words stand out to me right now in this moment is hope and healing. Even in the midst of all of this, it's vital for self-care. Self-care produces self-love, which produces self-healing. And at this point, we need all the healing and love and attention to ourselves, especially for those of us that give so much day to day. We have to turn in and focus on us, because as we've heard it before, we can't allow those on the outside to be thieves and just giving away what's meant for us. And one of the reasons why I say, of course, you've heard me say numerous occasions about hope. If you look and see on social media and just some of our friends and family who all of a sudden came up, some people are graduating, some people are getting their PhD or their doctorate, or, on such a come up. And we want you to know that somewhere down the line, you're next in line. So never give up hope. Stay the course. I know what's happening around us is hard to ignore. As Andre said, we become numb. Who would think? So I come with joy, giving you joy, with a beacon, being a beacon of light, to let you know there is hope. And especially to those of you who, like some of us, deal with chronic depression or high anxiety, and the list goes on. You're not alone. You're not alone. Even if you're living in your own space, there's somebody there. Go to www.nami.org. Someone is waiting there to talk with you, be a listening ear, or just give you food for thought or words of wisdom. But whatever you do, hold on and never let go. So first off, the queen of the house, Miss Tabitha. How are you, beloved?
I'm good. I moved to my new apartment in San Francisco this week, so it's been a little crazy. Thursday, according to my Fitbit, I did the equivalent of 2.5 full marathons and was at an active heart rate for over 12 hours. So I'm recovering.
All right.
Yeah.
It said, "Congratulations on running the Serengeti." I was like, "Oh, okay." I did that today.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to the end of the semester, and I saw some of my students today, and that was exciting. Socially distant, of course, and wrapping up this crazy year, and really just finding my place and settling in, finding my way. I got lost a few times this morning going to work, so it's a new adventure, and I think it's what I needed at this time, is like a little bit of a restart.
Beautiful. That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
See, viewers, things are happening. We just have to keep moving forward. I understand it. It's hard and heavy. Trust me, I feel it now. But still, I'm here and I'm present. And so can you. Stephen, my brother from another mother, what's going on? First of all, thank you. If you guys didn't see RGB, this brother rocked my show. That's all I can say. He's a star. He's a star.
It was a blast.
Hey.
It was a blast.
Christmas.
You know what?
You Grinch hater.
No, Christmas, Grinch was never this fun. So, yeah, I'm doing okay. I feel like I'm struggling, honestly, getting things done. I think something has happened. I'm finding myself being way lazier than normal, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I managed to be a bit more task mastery for 8 months, and then now it's crumbling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a astrologer that I follow on TikTok, and not only did I learn that
TikTok,
if y'all are into astrology, December 21st, big day, very big day.
Duly noted.
If you have any ideas that you're looking to get started, apparently that is the day to do it. It's also technically, apparently, the day that the Mayan calendar ends. So, but then also apparently, Sagittarians are expected to experience significant ego death on the 14th. So, shoot me a text.
I don't receive none of that. Yeah, I don't receive none of that. Yeah. How you doing? Mhm.
I'm like, I'll send the text to the group because I was like,
Oh wow.
this
I don't know if I need
was
to brace
assaultive.
myself.
This was not okay. Not okay. All
Well,
right.
Stephen, we're glad you're all right, and to tag on to that, this has affected, of course, as we know, everybody. So there will come times to where even your emotion, you just feel like, okay, I don't want to do anything because yesterday was one of those days for me. I just want to be in bed all day and just not move.
Mm.
But it was like, no, get up, get up. There's things to do. It's life to live.
Mm.
And in that, captain of the ship, CEO of Fortune 500, Dre,
Hey,
what it do? How you be, man?
I'm good. Still on my dental journey with the dentistry in New York City.
Isn't that delightful? Oh
my god!
And how does your mouth feel? Ding. Yeah,
So what I am going to say is much better.
Okay.
And so like, and in the process, whatever, because like I have really bad. Growing up, I had dental work when I was younger. That
Okay.
So normally you get your wisdom teeth pulled out.
Mm.
So I was about maybe 13. So the dentist that I had went to pulled the wisdom teeth, but they didn't. On one side, broke the tooth, not pulling the whole thing, and then sewed up the gum with the tooth still inside.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Which created a hole, and
Oh.
so my
Excuse
sinuses
me. Mhm.
literally drain into my gums. Like they come down one side and go completely across. And it's been
Dre.
going on since I was 13, right? So the good thing about this current dentist, he
Okay.
has been able to restructure certain things so that way now it does not drain across my gums. So now I'm not irritated with my allergies, which is like
Mhm.
has been kind of weird because I've gotten so used to. I carry Benadryl like a horny teenager carries a condom. Like I have it consistently. I don't leave the house without Benadryl.
And good night. Yeah.
Because you never know what, as I say, you never know what's gonna hit you. So it's like, but be prepared. That
Right. You pop them like Skittles,
be
huh?
ready. Be prepared. So I never leave the house without ibuprofen, Benadryl, like ever. I've been like that since I was 13. So it's been a little strange,
right,
to have allergies and they be kind of regular.
Mm.
And that irritate, achy,
right,
crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was just like, okay. And then preparing for New York City for us to go into our shutdown because it's inevitable. It's going to happen here. Which I've said. I was on someone's podcast the other day, and I kind of got some flack about saying, well, it's inevitable, but it's necessary for New York City to go on a shutdown again, partially just because things that have been happening where like we had over 500 people go to this this festival that I guess happens in the desert or whatever, and it's like this Burning Man. Burning Man festival, and 300 people have come back to New York City with it, and have like infested New York City in that process. So, which is is a problem. And what we know in New York is from December 27th to January 4th, it is our largest tourist time the whole year. And
Mm.
because of New Year's Eve and the ball dropping and the whole nine. So, on a strategic end, I'm sure Cuomo has been trying to really keep us open as long as possible because it's going to be more necessary for us to be on a lockdown then than it would be any other time. And because like which we're going to go into it with you guys because you're already there in California on your lockdown until January 4th. I have a feeling that across the country, especially large cities, the large cities in each state, I think are going to wind up coordinating to be the same. Like I think we're all going to wind up on lockdown again, kind of like they did in Britain, where they strategically did one city, one province to the next. At one point, for like 10 days, they were all on at the same time. They all came off at different times, but they were all on at the same time. So it was back to the beginning where we saw the ecosystem change and animals and stuff came. Like I think all that's going to have to happen again. But with the deaths and all this, and I'm just this time is making me more and more grateful for new opportunities, new people. Because it was funny on the podcast, it was explaining. I was going, well, I said I knew no one on my cast. They were like, well, I said I knew no one. I said I literally met everyone via social media and during pandemic, and this is came about. I was like, we've come really close over this short amount of time. I'm like, because we check in. I said, I think we probably have more conversations with each other than we do with people we really know. That it's been a blessing in itself.
Mhm.
I think because all of us are very social individuals. And me and Steven being in New York, where everything in New York is around being social. You can't be not social here. And so I think
Right.
this was really great for us, more probably than it was for the two of you, where you can kind of choose not to be social in California and still have 1,000 things to do throughout your whole state. You cannot be a loner in New York. It doesn't work.
Speaking of California, you posting that, and now we're talking about this. I have a cognac spritzer, but I need moonshine. Anybody have some? Because send it right away, huh? I'll take value. But I mean, this as well. I've been saying this about California. Born and raised here, and I know these humans. And you have a group of people that are just bold about it, don't care, don't wear a mask, or you have the people that want to say, "Oh, this is going against my constitutional rights." No, sir, ma'am. It just, but as I've been saying, it's the what has happened was the inevitable because constantly, every time that I did go out for my essentials, which was the only time I went out, unless it was extremely early in the wee hours, for outdoor cardio, which I brought that to a little bit shorter, due to flu season and COVID, in the air. So you have to use wisdom. But I mean, it started with the curfew, and then it went into that following week with the outdoor dining ban, which we do have a few restaurants who are defying that, and they're not being handled, which is just like, are we that weak? Are we that passive? Or is just the money thing there? I mean, politics, of course,
I politics. I mean,
yeah.
In that clipping that you sent me earlier about that restaurant, that where looking at the history of that restaurant doesn't even is not known for what you say being overcrowded and all of that. This was really a political statement more than it was anything else. This was a sheer defiance on uh, a bitterness of losing. Like, this is a GOP factor of like, and because
happening in a blue state.
Everything starts at the top. And so it's because there is so much misinformation still, which we have been in misinformation since March. How is that possible? How are we
before then, actually? But yeah.
My thing is, we're still having sheer debates on science still, where we know this is real, we know this is true, because this is not a United States problem. This is a global issue. Everyone is going through this. The difference is the old world, or the old countries, are handling this magnificently.
It's so embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing. I agree. It's so
To
embarrassing.
say the least.
It's the first time I was like, have ever been in agreement, which I'm sure it's happened to those because we have been all over the world, in the sense of the worst thing that you want to hear when you're in another country is, oh, selfish American. I now understand what the hell they're talking about, because I'm like, I'm not a selfish American. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. The people I'm around aren't selfish Americans. But now I live with a bunch of selfish Americans.
Right.
You heard spoiled and selfish.
Yeah. I mean, it's been crazy because, obviously I work at a school in San Francisco, and hearing what some of the parents are demanding that their children need just to justify their behaviors is kind of ridiculous. And then you see the impact it has on other students. And it wasn't our school, but another school in my area was shut down because someone insisted on having a 16th birthday party. And then another school very close by had a outdoor homecoming dance. And it's like,
so well, at least it was outdoors. I'm gonna say,
but 14 people popped up with COVID.
Right.
So it's one of those things where we're in a culture now where we're teaching our children to defy the things that are humanly right.
True.
And we're teaching them how to misbehave in a whole nother way, instead of saying, honey, this is how you thrive. This is how you cope. This is how you deal with, adversity. This is how you deal with a situation that may not be ideal. And this is what you do to work through it. This is how you learn how to build resilience. And instead of teaching our students that, people are choosing to just be selfish. Like, I need a sweet 16. I'm only going to get one 16-year-old, whatever. And it's like, yeah, it might be your last if you keep acting that way.
Well, for me is this. My question would be: is it that most of these parents of these children are not from Gen X? Like, they don't really understand struggle. They don't understand adversity. They don't really have a clue of real struggle, like real struggle. They don't really understand struggle in a global sense, and because we have, with social media, created a new demographic of racism and segregation, because it's like we have a full segregation on your relationship is incompatible if you're an Apple user and they're an Android user. Like, this is a real thing. Like, seriously? But is it because they don't really have the tools to equip
We
themselves.
don't agree on the adversity thing, I don't think.
I'm asking a question. I'm asking a question.
I mean, I don't know how
There he
much,
is.
like, if they're 40 years old, if they've got a 16-year-old, they had the kid at 24, it means they were 21 during 9/11. They, fully grown during the recession. Like, I don't want to say nothing. They costs are in the past 40 years for college have quintupled. Like they like. I think there's suffering to go around. What actually blows my mind about them is that I'm like, do you cross a threshold when you forget that you don't remember any of that stuff? Like, I don't know about you. I know I'm the Christmas Grinch, but like, I don't really
Jingle jangle hair.
remember
Oh.
school dances. I don't really remember
that's
many
what I'm saying.
birthdays.
Well,
Like,
but
it doesn't.
But that's what I mean. I'm going, the importance of these rites of passages for us, the school dance, prom, graduation, these were rites of passage for the three of us growing up. In such a manner that the memories of those, everything was instilled in us to create a memory where the new generations after Generation X, it's just about doing it. It's not about feeling anything. It's not about being emotional. It's not about connecting. It's literally about me. And so I'm not feeling it.
I
I
agree
want to
with that.
forget it. It's just reality. TikTok is a prime example of I don't give a goddamn.
Well, that's a whole separate generation. You're not talking about millennials. Like, I grew everything. I was prom. It's gonna be the best night of your life. You're gonna get laid afterwards. It's gonna be great.
Not laid afterwards.
American Pie, and then I had it, and it was boring, and I don't even remember where it took place, and
but this is what I'm saying. And,
we didn't have sports. We didn't have any homecoming. We didn't have
the generation after you. So my thing is, your generation after you aren't even going to prom on dates. They're going in groups.
Right. Well, they're not having sex anymore.
Well, they are. They're just sleeping with everybody.
No. Sex is way down, pal.
Well,
Google it. Sex is way down.
It is way down.
It's way down, but thank God. Just because COVID is real. That's
right.
Yeah.
Like COVID's real.
Why risk pregnancy when you can, get
right? You know what I'm saying? It's like,
pregnancy and disease. You don't even have to worry about it.
Because who's gonna name their baby Covita? Nobody's gonna name their baby Covita. You know what I'm saying?
Covita.
Oh, it will happen.
Don't knock it.
Somebody has named their baby vaccine. VAXINE. I saw it.
Moderna.
There's some twins that were COVID and Rona.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I say, if I just did not pay as much money as I paid for this big ass TV in my living room, I would have threw this bottle at TV when they were like, vaccine, a new baby, her name is Vaccine, VAXINE. I went, God damn it. What damn it? Why? I was just so glad that the baby wasn't black. That's all I was cared about. I was just glad the baby wasn't black.
But I think that, I think a lot about growing up. I was a latchkey kid. So if you know that experience, you came home from school, you locked the door, you called your mom or dad to say, hey, I'm home. You didn't answer the door for anybody.
Right.
You stayed put, you got your homework out, and then you watched a little bit of TV until mom and dad came home. Maybe got a snack. And I feel like my generation, when they said lockdown, we were like, cool, did that my entire childhood. I know how to stay in the house. I know how to keep myself occupied for long periods of time. My generation is the one that started knitting and making sourdough and doing all those things. And I feel like younger generations they're so used to things being so tangible. they didn't know how to deal with boredom. They didn't know how to keep themselves occupied, because I know raising my boys, I remember one time my oldest was like, I'm bored. I'm like, okay, be bored. Figure it out.
Right. Read a book. What's wrong with you?
Like
Like,
use your
create
imagination.
something.
I'm
Right.
not
Things
here
not
to
to be-
entertain you. And you need to figure out what to do with your time when you have downtime. And it was so interesting because the discovery that they both had when those periods occurred was far more valuable than I think they ever realized, because now they're capable of coping. They're capable of doing what they're supposed to be doing.
and they like themselves.
Yeah. And my oldest, you know, he's on a naval ship, so he has a lot of downtime
Right.
Right.
where you're just in a holding pattern, and he has the coping skills and the mechanisms now to be able to handle that and do fine, which is why he is very successful in what he does, as opposed to some people that just go batshit
Well,
crazy.
right.
Yeah. And see, here's the thing though, we don't have a lot of parents like you, Tabitha,
True.
to instill that. Let's start there. So we have a lot of idle time and idle minds who just either go a little bit left or far left. And, thank God that we learned and we were taught how to govern ourselves in any situation, and so when I look at, Generation X and all the other generations, and it's just like, then I really begin, first of all, I start to feel all the grades that I do have. Then, then it's just like, right, like parents. But I cringe because I'm like, don't you know there's so much more to you as well as to life and things that you can create? I mean, it goes for the same thing that the directors and movie producers that we have now. That's why I said a lot of these nowadays movies lack imagination and creativity because they go so far and then they just drop. And it's the same thing.
There are too many remakes. There are too many remakes. There are too many remakes.
Right, way too many. I'm like, certain things don't need to be touched.
Bringing anything new to the table. Everything is a remake.
Literally.
Like, I'm gonna say one thing I was excited about this week, over the weekend, was so Steven, gave us, has curated this list of things that we must watch in season 2, whatever. And being a youngin, even though he's a JH, he's a JJH, he's a Jingle Jangle hater.
Yeah, sure is.
I was
I need that keychain.
You're JJH forever.
And a shirt to go with it.
I'm gonna get it for you. I'm gonna look on Etsy. You're getting one.
Right. JJH, you are a JJH.
Jingle jangle hater, baby.
You're a Jingle Jangle hater. The original Grinch that stole Christmas from the Black people. He is. But there is no new. Like, it's kind of like there's nothing new. Like, and so it was kind of great to see 2 new movies that were actually good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they were good. And I was waiting on it not to be good. At least one of them.
Well, because you love hating on it. I know I'm a hater, but I love apparently getting ganged up on. That is the norm. Let's not forget that everyone being like, Steven, you're trying me this week. I tell you, Steven, this week you did.
Yeah. You lost your card. You lost your card for a hot minute there, buddy.
Well, I'm just saying because, after Waves, what I'm saying? Like when we watch Waves, I was just like, oh, I was like, oh, I don't know, Steven. Like, scenography on this is really good, but the storyline of this is some BS, and this is bad.
No.
Then
where did I feel like I
getting
experienced
good,
another movie
and
like
then, and then you
oh my God, stop it.
Go, please, until you do right by us.
Yeah, JJH. Cut it out. I'm still getting you a keychain that says JJH.
Right.
The little Santa hat.
Because it was so funny. I was going through the list again today, and I was like, "Oh, we've already discussed the the Five Bloods. We can't go back to that. We can't.
Right.
We can't. I said that was a. I'm still recovering from that movie
Mm.
because it was a Spike Lee letdown for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like it was too Spike Lee with that missed so many marks on such great stories of these men because it was too engulfed in the Spike Lee formula.
Yeah.
And Spike Lee just will not defer from his formula.
He won't bend.
And
You
which,
know, I met Spike Lee when I was auditioning for college. He was actually out on the campus when I was auditioning for college. And we were at a deli down the street, and he just kind of randomly walked in. And it was me and him and my parents. And we had an excellent conversation. And so I admire Spike Lee. I understand his vision. I don't think it always translates, but I feel like I have a better understanding of his vision and where he's coming from when he presents work like that. So every time I watch Spike Lee movies, I get a sense of like, okay, this is getting a little jagged and I don't understand this part. But then I reflect back to that and I go, oh, but I do understand his vision. So I have like this tug and pull whenever I watch his movies because I have so much respect for him after having that conversation. And I was only 17 at the time. I mean,
oh wow, okay.
He said some really profound things and gave me really great advice, which I carried on. So, you know, my heart's always there with him, and I will watch his movie through and through, and then just be like, I will quietly not like it. Unlike Steven.
Yes, I quietly not like things by Spike Lee. I do get his vision in the sense where Spike Lee's movies to me are back in the Damien and Tabitha understand what I'm going to say, but when I say this, I don't know if you've experienced this or not, Stephen, but in the early 90s, house music took a real turn where house music became spiritual, political, and lifestyle. It was like the first time all three pieces kind of came together. It wasn't one or the other. It was all those three things. And I think that Spike's movies are always a house song where you don't ever know where it's going to change, where it's going to go. There's going to be this reflection back to like something to remind you where the thing came from. The difference is in house music, it is this seamless journey musically, where with Spike, it is literally a jolt. Like you're jolted out of one thing into the next thing, and then you're pushed back in. And so it's a little bizarre. And like, I'm probably going to have to now look at Spike Lee movies like how you are, Tabitha, in the sense of like going, oh, okay, yeah. And then go back. Because I never get to watch after She's Gotta Have It. I have not seen a Spike Lee thing that from beginning to end that I wasn't like, okay, I have to go back and watch it again.
Wasn't that his first movie?
Yes.
All right.
Because it was so simple.
Mm-hmm. So what about Crooklyn?
And the backlash and the flashbacks of like his signature, like introducing music and introducing these artists and whatever, it was like this tutorial of Brooklyn.
So Dre, what about Crooklyn? You didn't like that?
I had to watch Crooklyn 3 times, and I only watched it because I had such a love for Alfre Woodard from beginning, because I got to see Alfre Woodard on a stage when I was 8 in a theater, and she was in Raising the Sun, and it was I was in love with her from like that point of understanding
she's amazing,
how great an actress she was, and then meeting her after, and she was so young and so vibrant, and it was like, like it was the first time I actually got to witness I saw a character and now I'm meeting a whole different person. They were totally different people. And it gave me a respect of the craft at 8, in the sense of she had the gift of taking herself. She had the spiritual gift that you're taught in church, where when you get up in front of people, I'm a preacher's kid. You get up in front of people and you have to deny yourself so that the spirit can flow through you. She did that in not a church. It was the first time I saw that it didn't happen in a spiritual sense, that it was she became someone else. And then after it was over, she put it down and she was her. It was brilliant. And so
Alfre Woodard knows how to tap in. She just knows how to just engulf herself into that character.
So Crooklyn for me was, I love her so much, I have to like this movie. And so I watched it so many times. Yes, right. I watched it so many times. But every time I watch Crooklyn, even to the point when Steven brought it up for us to watch it, I cry when she dies every time.
Yeah.
Because there is this sorrow you get.
Right.
But it's not for her. It's for the children.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's for the children and it's for her husband. It's this, how are they going to make it without her? It's never her. It's really like, how they going to live without her? How they going to make it? Like, it's almost like you don't see a path. And then all of a sudden, this little crack of light happens when the daughter takes her brother to go beat up that man. And it was like, she's still there. She's still there.
Right.
Yeah.
She's in Baby Girl. Yeah.
Right. It was, but then it also told, like, as I've gotten older, it's told a deeper story on the responsibility of the Black woman that is passed on to the Black girl inadvertently.
True.
Like, Black girls don't have an option not to be protective because they're taught from the womb to be protective of everybody but themselves. It's kind of really deep now that I'm older that you see it. And then, and now we have these campaigns on protect Black women, but Black women have been protecting us for years. And not just us. It was like this white woman on TikTok broke it down for me to the point where I got in a corner, and when I say I cut one old Kojic step in the corner because she just brought the word when she said that every white woman in her age groups owes a debt of gratitude to every Black woman that came into their house and washed their clothes, raised their kids, and fed their families.
Wow.
She broke it all the way down. She was like, without Black women, she said, we wouldn't even have made it to be, she said, we wouldn't even have the opportunity to be a Karen. We didn't know what we was doing. We didn't know how to raise no kids. She said, the most we knew how to do was make a Jello mold. I got into a whole corner and just cut up.
Good old Jello mold, huh?
That's a Jello mold.
Right, that old school Tupperware, where right.
With the curve, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Nip it on a sip of absinthe to get through the day.
Right.
Or what was it? Creme de menthe.
Oh my God.
Creme de menthe.
That part.
The official Karen drink. The original Karen drink. Creme de menthe. I'm just saying, but it was crazy. Like, in that. But go back to what we were talking about. So All of Us United. So Biden has said within the first 100 days, in his first 100 days, there'll be 100 million doses of vaccine of the coronavirus. And they have now brought in the vice presidents, the old presidents, to come in to say, like, to take the vaccine to show that it's safe. How do y'all feel about that?
Well, this morning, the first recipient of the Pfizer vaccine was a 90-year-old woman.
Right.
And she said she did it because she survived, the dealing with the Spanish flu and the outcome of that, and she felt like it was important to put herself on the line and be one of the first recipients to prove that it's okay. The thing that people forget now is science, right? So they talk about how fast this vaccine was created, but what they don't realize scientifically, they actually had the code for COVID long time ago, last year. So that's when they actually started on that genetic makeup. And it's not like they created it from scratch. It's built off of other vaccines and other scientific vaccinations that have been proven to be effective in the past. So, granted, I'm not going to be one of the first people in line. And teachers are like at the bottom of the essential workers totem pole. So we'll probably wind up getting it before the rest of the general public. But I do think that because there was no financial motivation, because the government paid for everything, it has to be the thing. They're not putting a microchip in our bodies, like all of those things that people are saying. Those bizarre myths. People are like, oh, they're going to track us. I'm like, guess what? They already do.
Right.
So,
it's called your cell phone.
It's called every camera on a street corner. Like,
right.
They already know. So if that's what you want to call it, sure. But I think scientifically, based on the fact, it sounds safe. Now, of course, I say that now, and I'm just going to sit back and wait and see.
Yeah. I recently, there's lots of like clickbaity articles about the side effects of the vaccine. Well, click on it, read any of them. What I've been seeing is that there are, the uncomfortable symptoms are about 24 hours after the second shot. And that's it.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you know what? That's not that bad. Just tell people, and that's not that bad. So, I think having them do it, one, I'm sure there'll be a million articles that say that they didn't actually take the vaccine. We're getting a different vaccine. This is some special fake thing. But yeah, just like Tabitha said, this is happening exceptionally fast, but it's happening slower than it could have because no safety protocols were lifted in terms of how they were testing the vaccine. So, I'm not even on the list of essential workers, period. So by the time I have the opportunity, there'll be a plethora of anecdotes and op-eds about how it's fine or not fine.
Well, there'll be a generic version by that time.
Right.
Or the zombie apocalypse, like either or.
Which I'm not making it. I'm not good at portion control. I'm not making it. In the zombie apocalypse.
I really, honestly, it's all scary to me. Because usually vaccines aren't ready this quick. So it's just a lot of questions, and also knowing that everybody's body chemistry is different, especially if you already have health ailments or issues, it could trigger that. so many things and ways to look at this. So, when, you hit certain bullet points, if you're diabetic, if you're a senior citizen, if you're this,
Yeah.
if you're that, if you have heart trouble. I've been thinking of those things, not just for myself, but for, the rest of the world. And I'm like, well, only thing that I can say is we'll see. We'll see. The proof is always in the pudding. So, once this has been dispersed and, we start seeing the reactions of the American people as well as the world, uh, we'll know then. That's all I can really say, because honestly, we don't know.
Yeah, well, I do think the timing of it doesn't make me nervous, only because, as Steve was saying, this is probably the first time that, one, globally, scientists have been working together and not against each other in competition. Like, the competition is now happening because it's in pharmaceutical. It's not
Right.
about creating the vaccine, and the creation of the vaccine is scientific. And I think it's been able to move so quickly and so fast just because there was no competition. There wasn't about, well, we need to be the first to have it. It's been about, all right, so all the restrictions that we would normally have to go by,
Right.
because it creates a competitive nature, have all been lifted because too many people across the globe are dying. So I think that's where it became, I wasn't nervous about the timing, about how quickly they were able to get it. Because what we learned was, George Washington Carver, when he discovered penicillin,
Hmm.
it took them 6 years to indoctrinate penicillin in reality. And it was all just because he was the black scientist.
Right.
It really had nothing to do about it didn't work or the whole not. It was all bureaucracy. It was all politics.
Mm.
So
Right.
this is all the politics of creating the vaccine were gone.
And the
Trump
financial
administration now
implications.
I'm sorry.
Right.
And the financial implications. I mean, the government literally just
Right.
threw all the money, like all of the countries threw all of their money at it.
Which is now where the problem is, because
Right.
now you have two
Mhm.
pharmaceutical companies that know, well, we have it. We have the formula. It's
Right.
test.
Right.
And so now this is totally out of control all over again,
Right.
where the bidding for PPE.
Well, no, not entirely, because the government bought all the doses. United States government purchased all the doses that will be available in the United States from Pfizer, which is taking away that idea of I have to pay for it or what the cost will be to
Sure.
make it free for everybody to have access to it. So, again, it's like that's another hurdle that they eliminated by
Mm.
doing that, because they wanted to make sure that it was more about availability and safety than it was about a competition or making money off of it. Trust me, they made enough money off of the research.
Oh, without
Right.
doubt.
Oh, yeah.
But
Most definitely.
but what
And
we,
they got to charge the U.S. government. So
Yeah.
I think they
Right.
also made plenty of money there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
so yeah, it's bizarre. But this is like, I think after this 100 million dosages factor, I guess my next concern is, will it remain free?
I
Because the flu shot isn't. You pay for it. You
right.
pay for the flu shot.
Hmm.
You pay for the pneumonia shot. You know what I'm saying? Like, you now. And so my thing is, so will this vaccine, which will be a necessity because it's 2 shots, but is it 2 shots and you're good for the rest of your life? Or is it 2 shots and because scientists in Britain are already talking about a COVID-20 strand. That is why they're so adamant about making sure they get this under control, because they don't want 19 to morph into as a Tabitha said, an apocalypse situation where it's like it just becomes uncontrollable, where we're chasing the disease and not and that's all we're doing.
True.
I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have no idea how long it'll last. We have
Like
no
I said,
idea.
we don't know. Yeah, we literally
Right.
don't know.
And I think if I remember anything, there's something in the language that makes me believe that we will all likely have access to a free vaccine. But if we have to get it again, then no. If this becomes something that's regular, like the flu vaccine, no.
True.
Number two, yeah.
Well, let's just move on. I don't know. Steven. So, Steven, all you. Our two reviews this week.
We're gonna do two. I think since it is the Christmas season, I want to save that for second, and we'll start off with, we're moving. We want to try to make sure that we get through all the Oscar contenders here on City Love Speaks, and so this week watched Hillbilly Elegy with, as you can see, Amy Adams and Glenn Close. It's based on a 2017 memoir by a man named J.D. Vance that covered his childhood growing up in rural Ohio and Kentucky. That was primarily based on being raised primarily by his grandmother, as his mother struggled with addiction, primarily heroin addiction, and then him eventually moving in with his grandmother, and through joining the military, getting to study at Ohio State, and then going to Yale Law School. Now, the reason that he wrote his memoir is because I read it as part of a book club. His premise was, Trump has been elected. This took so many people by surprise. That is because this is like that people don't have enough of a conception of what effectively white rural poverty looks like. And he wrote it to display that. So the question is this movie, does it do a decent job of it? Let's go, before I talk into how this movie has been received, let's just go ahead. I almost used the phrase white knuckle reactions, but that's not the way it works. First,
Okay, Steven. Okay.
Right off the bat.
Yeah.
Right. Like, first initial thoughts.
First initial thoughts, because I had read the book. I loved it. I love the movie. I think, I'm such a fan of Glenn Close because she becomes the character in such a manner that at the end of the movie, when they showed the pictures of Mima,
oh, very much.
Yeah.
She looked exactly like her. Like it was
Especially there was one I think of like
so good
behind. It was like,
right.
Is that a real one or is that Glenn Close? Yeah.
Right. Like the metamorphosis of it was so amazing. And what I also loved about this book was, to me, this story kind of bridged this gap about poor. That it's a story you normally only hear Black people have, not really white people have. We know that it exists because white people that are poor live in trailer parks to most Americans. So to see this generational poor that still lived in houses, drove cars, they worked
Right.
paycheck to paycheck, like it was kind of sad, but it was like this movie could have been shot with an all black cast in New Orleans, where it was the same story and same environment. It was just racially different. The only thing that was different was their race, not any of the circumstances that come along. Um, not go. I had a little joyous moment when Glenn Close in the movie Mima had, I call it, a very black woman moment with a white woman result. Because it was, if you come in here drunk again, beating on me, that'll be your last time, is the black woman's threat. But when she said, I'm going to set you on fire, and when she stood over him and said, I told you, and set him on fire,
Yeah.
I was like, well, damn. Well, all right. Well, all right. She warned you.
Yeah.
But for Amy Adams' character, her as a child, to have to go save her daddy
Mm-hmm.
by taking a quilt and smothering the flames off of him, you know, is a jarring, like, systematic issue.
Yeah.
Where it's Mima did the best that she knew how to do with what she knew how to do. And Mima came from a generation where you could tell where it was just good that Mima could read, because her daughter was now the next generation that could go into professional work. Mima wasn't a professional.
Right. She was 13 when she had her first kid.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
She didn't have, like, she was a housewife. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
And so, like, she went from a housewife to her daughter now being able to be a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
But the trauma that came with it. So I'm like, I loved it. I thought it was such a great movie.
Tabitha.
I also thought it was great. I thought Glenn Close and Amy Adams gave stellar performances. I mean, they really stepped into the character in a way that I thought had so much depth. And just, I want to say charisma, because it takes a lot to be able to really imbibe a character like that. I loved the beginning where he said poverty was a family tradition, because it really does set the stage for all the things that happen that we witness throughout the time, the evolution. I also thought it was a great story because it shows how you have to take those generational steps to get out of poverty. It doesn't happen within a generation.
Right.
Usually it takes 2 or 3. You know, you have the mom that was a teenage mother, housewife, and then the daughter that, you know, gets a little bit of schooling to become a nurse, and then the son that realizes, oh, school is kind of a gateway, and then takes the next step beyond that. And I see that with Black families and white families. I mean, growing up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, we were a stone's throw from a lot of white poverty, I guess you can call it. People that lived on farms, people that literally lived hand to mouth, and went to school with a lot of people that were in a state of poverty and tried to hide it, and, you know, saw the environments that they grew up in. So it resonated with me because I definitely understood that story on a deeper level, because I know people that have lifted themselves out of those situations and now are living, you know, pretty standard middle class lives, but also recognize the places that they came from. I mean, my parents were sharecroppers in Mississippi. Like, they lived on a farm. They were the kids that went to school when it rained, you know, and had to walk 15 miles uphill. You know, all those stories that people joke about, those were my parents. You know, 17 siblings living in a 1-bedroom house. That's where my parents grew up with. So that's a level of poverty that I definitely understand. And then now seeing what my parents did to give me an education and so on and so forth, it's definitely a story that resonates with me. But I thought it was great.
Damien?
First of all, Glenn Close is just the diva to me. She just is. She's the ball. .com. First of all, the movie was excellent. Every character gave just pure excellence, par excellence. Because first of all, that movie was the story was so meaty, it was so heavy, it was so filled with emotions and trials and real life experiences. And Meemaw reminded me of those people from generations before that I came up around that had that unconditional love, but would fight for you, but also get you together with the quickness and didn't even have to say much. Sometimes all they had to do was give you a look. Because trust me, if I even looked like I was doing something wrong in church, my mother, all she had to do was raise her left eyebrow and I became stiff like iceberg. But I mean, it just reminded me of all those good, solid people, that you came up around, and as Tabitha said, they did the best they could with what they had. And that's what I came up on. My family struggled, but somehow we made it, but it reminded me so much of not only African-American families as well as mine, but also other, nationalities and as well as white families, because I'm a people person. So I know people from all walks of life. I mean, my mother's always say my child was taught to a bum, because I do. Everybody has a heart and a spirit, and I just, hey, how you doing? So it held so many depths with me, so it was emotionally like, woo, okay. It was a couple times I had to blink a little bit, like, okay, don't cry, because if you start crying, you won't see the rest of the movie. Let's keep going. But yeah, I give it a thumbs up, because that, and Amy Adams, oh my God.
Yeah, Oscar nominated.
Dang, yeah.
Amy Adams had it hard. I'm gonna say,
yeah.
And part of the reason Amy Adams had it hard, for me, is because, sadly, I think Amy Adams is a really good actress. I really do. But you can't Amy Adams has been forever trying to break her Disney-ness. So no matter, every time you see her, everything she's in, you still see Amy Adams. You don't ever really see the character. You see Amy Adams playing someone. And
I have to say she broke it, because I hardly recognized her. I mean, when you say engulfing yourself in that character, I was like, that's Amy. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah,
Mama did her thing. Yeah, she
did
about
well.
her and
I think she
were
completely
like
did well. But
yeah,
up against Glenn Close.
Yeah.
It was like, this was Amy Adams and Glenn Close. This was Doubt all over again with Viola and Meryl Streep. It was this, like, okay, the intimidation alone, I think sometimes you saw in it. I thought Amy was wonderful, but I've seen Amy do this before, where I never recognized Mary. I never ever recognized Glenn Close. Like, never. Even when she is even when she was like in The Wife, where she was just a regular looking white woman, you don't recognize her. You just, it's something that happens that you just believe it in such a manner that I was just kind of like, this is hard for Amy. And then I felt bad because they got so much bad press.
Yeah, so
such an amazing performance.
I thought it was good also. I think that books like these struggle to be turned into movies, and I think we're going to see a similar issue with the Trevor Noah adaptation into a film, because he wasn't just telling stories, but also laying the background of what was going on in South Africa that gave rise to those stories. And something that we do lose. He talks about the state highway that led from Appalachia to Ohio, and how some of the bad press coming from like them having houses, and so they can't really be poor, they own homes and things. Well, the idea that in the Rust Belt, where people could go get a reliable job and then buy a house, and then when the towns died, these people ended up just stuck with these houses that they couldn't sell. And so they own a home, but it's not worth anything, and they can't sell it to go anywhere, and it's falling apart, and they can't pay to fix it.
And it's been passed down. It's the only thing that they have to give.
Right. And it also it made me think of like my great grandmother and great grandfather. My great grandmother was 19 when she had my grandmother, who was 16 when she had my mom. So like they were all very close together, and great grandmother grew up in an orphanage, raised grandmother in a trailer park, etc. And so like where some of my family still currently lives, and so like the closeness, the idea of being a child who sees two people who seem very close and not understanding why people have traumatic relationships toward them, that is something I absolutely responded to, because my great grandparents were big gambling addicts and terrible to each other and terrible to my grandparents, and my grandparents weren't great to my mom. And so but I learned about that much later on. I'm wondering, because this movie has a 25% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right.
Wow.
25%. It's got an audience score of 85%. And part of me wonders, like, is this like a crisis of marketing where they tried to frame it as an Oscar movie, and maybe it's like not as good as some other movies, but because it was trying to be framed as a great movie, critics tore it apart? Like, what do y'all think?
I think
why 25%?
I'm going to go real far left with this.
Mhm.
I think that a lot of the criticism, because a lot of the critics that have been tearing this movie apart are the same critics that have had an issue with the Oscars now having the mandatory factor of diversity in films that is coming up. They've been very adamant against saying no. These same critics they're the same critics that are tearing this movie apart. And I think this was when reading the book, this book is The Great White Hope. This movie was, I think, in hopes to bridge this gap with African Americans and Hispanics, that we're just like you. And the movie didn't do that. Because even still in the movie, with all the bad that was going on, there was still an abundance of white privilege. Like a sheer abundance of white privilege. Down to the point where there are parts in the movie that they purposely, I think Ron Howard did not do, because it would have changed the story. But you have a white boy that grew up in the Appalachia, poor, with a drug addict mama, that's dated, that married an Indian girl. Nothing about that was going to be all right in Appalachia, because it's one of the last Mohicans of white nationalism, because everything has been taken away from them but their color. So the fight to hold on to the privilege was something that was very much left out of the movie. That we
Right.
people of color are not complaining about, but they have been complaining. The critics have been complaining because the movie did not go far enough in the explanation of the poverty. That the economic standard is where their thing has been, and it's like I'm going, and I think they had to do this because as an Oscar contender, the movie as an Oscar contender, we are now in a very weird place in the world where the Oscars, in the process of trying to make change, now this new coming Oscar ceremony is going to guarantee that a Black woman is going to get Best Actress. Almost going to be a guarantee. Because they have been talking about nominations of Viola, Jennifer Hudson, Andra Day. We haven't seen these movies. No one's seen these
Right.
movies. Like I'm saying, like no one's seen them. Even people that can vote have not seen these movies yet. So I think Glenn Close being nominated, which I think is brilliant because she has deserved an Oscar. She deserved an Oscar in Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
Like, if you have never been scared of a white woman, Glenn Close scared you. She scared the shit out of you.
Scared the bejesus out you.
Glenn Close is the whole reason I grew up with my granddaddy saying, you can't trust no white woman. Can't trust them. Like I grew like based off of that movie, not based off of where he grew up and all that. It was that crazy ass white woman had boiled a rabbit in a pot on a stove in
Right.
a house she broke into.
She didn't
can't
use
trust
no
a white
parties.
You can't trust no white woman. Like, that was the conversation with me growing up. So I think this is racially driven more than it is talent driven.
I wonder, and I was wondering how you guys might feel about this. Part of me wonders if the woke wing of the movie critics see this movie as just another movie full of white people, while the conservative wing of movie critics are of a kind of white person that hates poor white people and thinks of them as white trash. And so there's like a larger point, and I guess I should have tagged it in terms of like, it's not even, it should be, I don't know, noted that the majority of mainstream film critics that are putting the criticisms into things like Rotten Tomatoes are themselves white. So of this, woke performing body, and then this, sort of urban centered white body, both hate the rural poor white person. Would you guys think that has any water at all?
I personally, first of all, when it comes to critics, I see them as that part of society that tells you what to do and what to think and how to think, what you think of certain things. So a lot of that I ignore because I need to see it for myself.
Right.
Because there's a lot of movies that just people, a lot of my friends, white and otherwise, that just adore certain movies, and I think it's just absolute trash.
Right.
And a waste of money. But when it comes to, if something is good, it's just good. And
Right.
this movie, like I said, Amy Adams brought her A game. I didn't even see her any times of intimidation because Mom was so busy going nutso with the heroin and the heroin, as some people say it. But Mama dived into it, and she gave each level and age of where they brought the story of where Ron Howard brought the story to us in those levels, and each level, each age, she brought it.
Mhm.
Even after he had to leave school, he was doing his interviews or whatnot, and she was older and just raw.
Yeah, I thought-
I'm like, whoa, Amy, you're doing it, Mom. Because as Dre said, we're so used to seeing her.
Mhm.
So when she came and just was like, yeah, in your face, I said, okay, bravo. And for you to stand next to, because actually to me, her and Glenn Close were feeding off of each other. There was a flow with them. There was a rhythm, and you couldn't help but see it. And each time, that Meemaw got in her face was like, no, I'm not taking it. Especially when she went and got the son. Oh, you can't take. She's like, damn, if I don't, what you gonna do? So it was just that type of flow. And I'm like, yes, Meemaw. So she was the hero for him, and that's why I stated what I said earlier, was that she reminded me of so many people that I came up around that embraced you, that loved you, that imparted into you, because Meemaw gave him chunks of wisdom, words of wisdom for him to live by. And he even stated that later on in the movie. And it was just like, that was basically my childhood, just with black folk, or a mixture of folk, because all of them weren't black. So with that, I say nah to the critics, because from front to finish, I was right there. There was never any downtime where I'm like, ooh, la 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 la, let me see what the weather looks like. It was nothing like that. And that's why I say that it was just so heavy and so meaty, and so emotional. And it was a couple of times I had to, okay, waterworks, please. No, no, no. So yeah. So when it comes to critics and them saying, well, it was trash or whatever, and 25%, get real, bro.
Yeah, it is not a 25% on Rotten Tomatoes kind of movie. Armageddon has like 45% on Rotten Tomatoes. This movie is better than Armageddon.
I always think about the critics in terms of like the Aquaman mentality. First of all, critics should not be reviewing any kind of Marvel or comic book. Like that's a whole other genre. Just leave it alone. But like I remember when the critics were so adamant about being just mean about Aquaman. And I kept thinking, and a friend of mine put it so clearly. She said, we didn't go for the story and the breadth and to make sure that, the reference to series 7, comic book number 14 was in the movie. We went to see Jason Momoa wet.
Yeah.
Like that was the problem, because that would be Jason Momoa.
That's all we wanted. Like we just wanted that for 2 hours. Storyline we're not really attached to. Nicole Kidman in a unitard. Okay, sure. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care what the critics are gonna say when I know I'm gonna see Jason Momoa shirtless.
Yeah.
Right, but then it came down to Jason Momoa got bad credit because he was Jason Momoa, and the critics wanted Aquaman to be white with yellow blonde hair, and like what we saw in Super Friends growing up. Seeing him as any other, as in a diversity factor, was a problem. We went through the same thing when Disney decided that they were going to do Little Mermaid live and use one of the Chloe sisters as the mermaid, where they had to recast her because she was getting death threats because she was a black girl. Well, why can't Ariel be black?
All I'm saying is they're making an Aquaman 2.
I'm happy about it.
So, critics can say whatever they want. We're going to go see Jason Momoa.
Well,
yeah.
Well,
but I do want to say
the whole 9, yeah.
But I do want to say, and I know she is not going to get any credit at all, but Miss Bentley that played Lindsay, his sister
Oh
Mm.
yeah,
was
Yeah.
phenomenal.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
good.
I feel bad because she's not gonna get support. She's not gonna get nominated for supporting actress because Amy Adams is gonna get
Right.
nominated
Right.
for that. But when I say the sister was the milestone, like oh my gosh, she was so brilliant
Mm.
in her acceptance, but teaching her brother to accept and move forward. Like not allowing him to utilize his situation, their situation, or their history as a block
Right.
or a hindrance to becoming his best self, which is what Mima was. And I love that Mima was in Southern Black families, they call her Big Mama.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that Mima was Big Mama. Because I ain't gonna lie, I did want her to snatch him by that neck when he threw that calculator out the window, though. I really did.
Oh, that was like,
Yeah. Oh my God.
woof.
She flew over. She said, "Go get it," and you better her. I'm like, whoa! But I thought that's what she was gonna do because that's how tough Mima was.
Well, she gave him a
Yeah.
choice.
She was about to snatch him up. Like, look,
Right. I was like, this man's got a thing about getting beat in cars. Like he
Right.
likes that apparently. Yeah.
apparently,
Well,
Oh,
on that note, on to the holiday season. Happiest Season is a new Hulu comedy from Clea Duvall starring Kristen Stewart, Mackenzie Davis, Mary Steenburgen, Aubrey Plaza, and Victor Garber. It is about a couple, Abby and Harper, who live together in a city, presumably Philadelphia. And Harper invites Abby to come spend Christmas with her family. On the way there, she breaks the news that not only do her parents not know that she and Abby are together, she is not out to her parents, and she wants Abby to lie about being gay. Then she learns, as we go on, we learn in a very Birdcage-esque scenario, Victor Garber is a politician on the city council trying to court the conservative vote, desperately has a family that toxically tries to impress each other. Let's go in reverse order this time. Damian, Michael, what are your thoughts?
well, I will admit, this movie, the waterworks did come. I mean, it had so many real life messages. It just stood out in so many ways of how we as a society, how we live and how we operate and how we govern ourselves, which usually excludes emotions and how we feel. You know, we don't care how you feel. We just need you to present. We need you to govern yourself accordingly so we can get this current. And stay, in the upright position before the people, which most times that's where a lot of people in many of genres of life and living, they fall through the cracks. And where, you originally started off with truth, you've, become creating things on a foundation of lies. So, and I always tell people it's better to stand in and live in truth, because lies, after a while, it just bursts into something to where you can't control it. And literally, the top came off, the bottom fell out. Everybody came forward with all of their truth, and it just, came to a point to where it had to be dealt with right then and there. It's either lose or draw, so and then of course, being the same gender loving African American king, and the importance of living your truth, and having to deny it or suppress it for whatever reason, whether it be for somebody you love or, you're before the people, because for so long, especially in church, I had to suppress my truth because, I was always before the people. If I wasn't speaking, I was singing. Or even just not church, but also leadership, follows you everywhere. And you're a leader, it just shows up. So I wound up being before people everywhere. So after a while, I busted out like crazy because I got tired of holding lies or covering myself in lies to look good before family and friends and colleagues, because you don't want to be seen as gay. So after a while watching that movie, I just kind of, oh, they're just so beautiful, because it was real life, and the things that real people do, so yeah, I loved it.
Tabitha?
I thought it was cute. Like, it's about time that we start having Christmas movies that are real. Like, I could see that actually unfolding instead of the pretend Christmas that everybody assumes that we're all having behind closed doors. I thought it was extremely valuable to see those conversations unfold and to see those truths unfold, and not just with the couple, but with everybody else in the family. I thought Daniel Levy stole the show every single time he was like, "But I'm tracking you."
Yes.
Right.
He's like, how many times do I have to tell you I'm tracking you? And when he tried to be like a dude standing next to the guy, that was hilarious. He was like, "So how much you bench?" He was like 300, and
hilarious.
Or even like the fish being like, oh, such a great fish. Where can I get exactly that same fish for myself?
So I love, but even those little snippets of like standing next to the dude trying to be a dude, and trying to pretend. I appreciated those moments because they're so realistic, and I see them happen all the time, especially being around high school kids who haven't maybe yet come into their truth and trying to be a certain way, but then you catch them in those moments when they're being themselves, and then you make that eye contact and you're like, I saw that. You're not hiding. So it was nice. And I'm not a huge Kristen Stewart fan, but I think for the first time she genuinely acted and did a good job and wasn't stone-faced the entire time. And I appreciated it because I think she was living her truth in her character, because in the past she always had to play a heterosexual character. So I appreciated it. I liked it.
Dope. Dre?
Loved it. What I loved about it was that it was the first time we've seen a gay story that wasn't about the gay. It literally was about the thing that gay people are always they're consistently always accused of doing, is lying about who they are. And it showed in this situation, Harper would have lied about who she was, gay or not, because she came from parents that were all about creating this narrative of perfection, regardless. It did not mean anything if it wasn't perfected. People's opinions matter. And it was like, so Harper, gay or straight, like it did not matter that she was really gay. Harper came into the situation already with demons. And she had already destroyed a relationship that she probably would have still been in if that wasn't true of the family dynamic.
Right.
And then I love the sister, the youngest sister, the one that they had just gave up on. Because she was determined she was just going to be herself. For her to be the most successful of the siblings.
Steven.
We love Jane. We love Jane.
I loved Jane.
She was everything.
watching that
Everything.
movie, I was like, does she have a GoFundMe I can contribute to
I love
get her
it.
out of these horrible things? Like, and like, I mean, I thought it was so good. I thought, it managed to walk this wild line of being so real. Like Dan Levy talking to Kristen Stewart at the end about, you you can be upset and she's hurt you, but understand that like, she is going through something that we all understand and we all know and are afraid of. And like, that was such a real moment. Hearing what happened to Aubrey Plaza was like very like it's so easily imaginable.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie is also slightly heightened where they go she goes to the bar to meet Harper and her friends.
Yeah.
And they she shows up and the guy is there and he's like pouring shots and they're all like shots, and I was like, oh my god, I don't think is anyone straight enough for this bar. Like, this bar is crazy. And then they leave and the bar is called Fratties. And even though, yes, there's probably a bar somewhere called Fratties, it's like just the notch on reality is turned up just a little bit. And it's it walks this line of being so fun while also, touching these very real moments. It touches on topics that no Christmas movie and few regular movies really frame in this way, that you can also come out and say, I knew Roombas were homophobic. I knew it.
Right. Well, I mean, I
Um,
thought it was really interesting to the factor too that this was the first time we heard 3 different types of coming out stories. Well, actually 4. Normally, it's only one coming out narrative. And then
right.
what most people think, so if you're a person of color, you kind of think, where if you're white and you came out, that you came out like Kristen Stewart's character came out, whereas like her parents were like hippies and they loved it and it was fine and it was all great and embrace your truth, the whole nine. Where Livy explaining like, yeah, that's not how that goes. This is how this happened for me.
Right.
And then Harper's factor of like how it went down, but then Harper's first girlfriend, where she was pushed out the closet by Harper.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, she was hung out to dry as a teenager for her to still be in the town, a successful doctor, but still living in the shadows of the Whispers.
I still saw her as a trooper, though. Yeah, for her.
She was a trooper, but I mean, it's stories that we all know of gay people.
Right.
That we don't really hear, because the gay story normally is always either so traumatic or so sexualized that it's not looked on as being humanistic ever.
Right.
Like, you don't like, it's going Harper and the ex-girlfriend really were the same girl.
Yeah.
One came into their honesty, forcibly had to come into their honesty before the other. But
yeah,
and in the day, they wind up still having the same story, because Harper's sister, the parents created such a competition on being the favorite and her sister, which I felt bad, because I'm like, wow, I was really glad to kind of see that demographic of that. Yes, their daughter was this really smart woman that became this lawyer, and she dated this black man, and she married this black man and threw her life away. All because he was a black man. Has these 2 biracial children that they're just dealing with and using as political pawns.
Right. He's like, she's like, do you need me for anything? He goes, no, just, walk your kids around. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. Because that was like one of the first things that really exposed him. And you're like, all right. All righty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
I
I've
think.
seen that. I've seen
Steven,
that in real life.
that
Yeah,
part.
well, you've
It's so
seen that
real.
in real life.
Yeah.
So real. I have a
I don't
question,
get to see that.
Steven.
I'm glad about it.
Being that this is a movie that is centered around Christmas or holiday,
I loved it, and it followed its own
wait.
rules,
Hold on. Excuse me.
so I'm fine with it.
Wait, I need a drink. Hold on one second. Excuse me. Hold on.
Oh dear.
Okay,
What,
can you say that
JJH?
real slow again? Can you say that real slow? Now, you said what now?
I said I loved it, and it followed its own rules.
Oh my.
So it doesn't have to be realistic. It's got to follow its own rules.
Is that what it is?
that.
Something that I think that it did
Oh.
that was I want to like praise this movie again. Something that it did that was more subtle was that this is one of the first movies, and maybe the only movie that I've seen that, you know, the centers of reason were the gay community. Normally in movies, like there's a, maybe with the exception of the like gay best friend trope that tells it like it is, but their lives generally aren't depicted by the movie the center of stability and the way to like, I mean, she was being, Kristen Stewart goes to this family and is just getting gaslit 24/7 about whether or not she should be like running for her life. And so like it's Dan Levy and it's Aubrey Plaza that are like, no, this family is nuts. That is, I think, like, it is subtle, but I think that it's very rare that the center of the center of reason, the voices of reason, are coming from very, I mean, if you think about it, they are the functional characters in this movie.
Right.
The functional characters are Dan Levy and Aubrey Plaza, and Kristen Stewart. She's just in the middle of Crucible.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing that I can say I did not like about the movie was the movie made some real intentions to include every aspect of the gay culture, in the sense of the groups, in the sense of there were lesbians, there were gay men, there was the leather scene, you had the drag queens, but there was not a person of color that was gay. Was a problem for me. Like it's still for me the erasure of that we don't exist in the like in gay, like we're completely separate. I'm like in this whole town, there's not a gay male hairdresser. There's not somebody that work in the mall. Like there's no person of color, not a Hispanic dude, not a black guy, not a black girl lesbian. That was kind of an issue for me. What made it okay was because all of the people of color that were in the movie are people that I love that you never remember their names. Like they're super funny. You can name everything they're in, but you can never say their names. You never remember exactly their names. Like the Indian woman that is like working for the mayor's office is having an affair with her. You know, the black woman that's the comedian that is at the very beginning that's taking them on the tour. Of the Lighting Houses. Like, these are people that are amazing. We've seen them in 1,000 things, but what are their names? We never remember their names. So I love the fact that they were in the movie, but I didn't think they took the place of that because she was married to a black man, that was all the black people that needed to be in a whole town.
Right.
Like that was a little bit of a problem for me. In the sense of I was reading this article, Kristen Stewart are talking about the inclusivity of adding the gay world into normal life. And I'm like, well, there were no black people.
Right.
And the one black person that was there, y'all didn't like.
Right. I mean, that is the a chronic problem of white helmed diversity initiatives is that there isn't that when we have they typically go by number, say, oh man, we've got maybe 10 actors with speaking parts, but they're not equally distributed. And it's like, sure, you've got a number of them that are portrayed as being a welcomed part of this ultra wealthy world. And it's like, okay, but like that's one part of the world. What about this? What about the gay world? Like, I think,
well, more than just the gay world, but even in the regular world that they lived in, there weren't even a lot of black and Hispanic extras in the movie.
right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was the Indian woman and the black man should not have stood out as much as they stood out. But they had to because they were always in rooms full of white people.
Right.
You know, like,
yeah,
like that was where like the larger issue for me came, in the sense of when you read the press packet after and they're talking about inclusivity,
right.
And it's like, well, you're leaving us out.
Right.
I mean, I was just happy that it was Jinx and not, a black drag queen, because that's how we're normally portrayed.
Which that's this reminds me, I think it's a good point to mention that anyone who's all the detractors for the Oscar business and stuff, it's not gonna, this movie would have passed those rules with flying colors, and it still comes up short. Those are, to call them a bare minimum is complimentary.
I agree.
Yeah,
true.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. So I want to move on to my favorite segment. The Negro Please Award. And so this week's Negro Please.
Good night, nurse.
Oh, so Mr. Samuels he calls himself a corporate consultant, but pretty much he is just a glorified retail associate that sells suits.
Looks like a bookworm.
Branding corporate people. So, did you all guys see the video I sent you of? Did you all see it or no?
I did.
Did you get to see it, Tabitha?
No, I don't know which one it is.
We share a lot of videos.
All right, so Tabitha, apparently, Kenneth Samuels, he has a YouTube channel as well. Thank you, YouTube, for having us. He has this YouTube channel, and he had this black woman that was on the YouTube channel. And she was saying, like, her goal was that she wanted to be able to date a man that made six figures. And he berated this black woman so bad.
Horribly.
Like, first he berated her on where she comes from, on the sense of saying, because he knew nothing about this woman, but full on said, well, you don't come from money. So you don't come from people that are going to be able to even introduce you to these men that make this type of money, that make six figures. I was like, and I had to pause and I was like, what? I was like, that's just kind of not true. And she made the comment where, you know, she's over 40. And she's saying men that are over 40 are really not trying to be with a 20-year-old woman. Or she said girl. And he said, well, that's not true. He was like, because I'm 51 and they throw themselves at me all the time. So, wait, Damien, let me get it out. Let me get it out first. Let me get it out. So I was like, so I decided to go on Mr. Samuel's Facebook page and see who these women are that are throwing themselves on him. Because I needed to see who these women were. Because Mr. Samuels and I we're in the same age group. What I know about men in my age group, especially men of color, we all suffer from the Claire Huxtable fantasy. If you're a man of color. If you're a man of color with a little bit of coinage in your pocket, you are in search of Claire Huxtable if you're a heterosexual male. You are looking for a very strong, beautiful, independent, articulate showstopper. You are not looking for a child to raise. You're just not. If you're a white man, you are looking for Crystal Carrington. In our generation, they are the archetypes of the women of means. Those are the archetypes that you are going for. So then he berated her and said he asked her to rate herself and told her, oh, you were kind because you're really only a 5. In rating herself from the 1 to 10.
Oh, help me,
She
Lord.
rated
Help
herself
me,
as a
help
7
me, help me,
in her
Lord.
modesty.
Help me.
And he is this relationship guru factor consultant. And I was just at the, I couldn't even say Negro. I was like, please. Like through the whole situation. I was like I wanted to come in because he's so misogynistic in such a manner that it was disgraceful. I am so sad that you did not get to see the video, Tabitha, because I knew you would be like
ripping him to
right. But then there were moments when he were talking where I went typical. Like I had those moments where I was like, oh my God, Tabitha has now taken over my psyche because I was like a typical.
Yeah.
That typical.
Yeah.
It was bad.
It sounds like all the men that I've dated where they say they're looking for an alpha female and then alpha female shows up and they're like, ooh, too much.
Oh,
Right.
Slow down
Right.
there. That's just you're too alpha. I'm like, all right, well, goodbye.
Well, what is too alpha? Either you're alpha or you're not.
Look,
There's not levels of alpha.
I've been told I was too alpha in so many different scenarios, and I was like, "This is so you want me to be passive but alpha? You want me to pretend to be alpha? That's what it is. So that you can tell me what to do. So bye." And then they get really mad when I say bye, and then they start getting all mean and saying, "Well, you're not everything anyway." And I was like, "I'm so glad I don't need you to validate who I am. Bye."
goodbye.
It's like so many times I've witnessed.
Wow.
They're like, "I want a strong, independent woman who takes care of herself and has her career in line and knows what she wants and knows exactly what she wants." And I was like, "Oh, you want someone that just wants to bleep you and feel okay about it." I'm like, "No, if I don't want to, I'm not gonna, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm not gonna." That's not an alpha female that's just gonna put out because she's empowered. No, that's not the definition.
That's not how that works, right?
No.
Right.
So, yeah, it's very funny. I've experienced it many, many times. I will go back and watch it when I'm not in an angry Black woman state.
Woo! Well, girl, don't watch it because
Please don't.
Yeah, put it there. Yeah.
Because you will explode. Yeah.
Oh,
When I
I'll go
tell
find him.
you
Yeah.
like to the point where this is how mad he made me. He made me so mad that I was like, let me reach out to him and see if he can be a guest on the show.
Oh my God, I would rip him.
Well, right. That's why. Because I knew you would rip him to shreds. And Damien would have to just get a straw and put it in the bottle. Because I'm gonna tell you this, I'm gonna do my impression of Damien Michael in this moment. Girl. Like, it would have been that. It would have been like, girl.
Please
Dre,
invite him on the show. Invite him on the show. Invite him on the show.
yeah.
Because
I have
he's
words
so
for him.
sympathetic.
I have words for him. I
have so many words for him.
Sitting here, I mean, it would have been much further than girl. It would have been bruh. South Central would have came out.
I will pay the fines in advance.
Right. I'll put the money in the jar. Yeah.
Like,
You
like, because I'm at the Suns. Because I'm going one.
Like, girl, because first of all, and I'm not
right.
But when you ugly, like the horrible and oversized skinny ass bookworm with these big ass glasses and goggles and okay. I'm trying, y'all. Y'all see? Okay. Because, see, this is what, pull up the seat. That right there. You look like shit. Okay. So, yeah. And then you have the nerve to ridicule, belittle, downgrade a Black queen. Who this woman, and let's set the stage because she is a business owner. And then he had the nerve also where really, along with him rating her and saying she's nothing but a 5, because he even went so far to say, well, that's a lie, because, what do you look like without that makeup? Because I'm pretty sure that ain't even you. You probably look, in other words, in a whole lot of words, you look worse than what you look now.
Right.
With a
he
crooked
rated
hairline.
Huh?
With his crooked hairline.
That part. I'm like, you from east to northwest, honey. Where are you? Where are you? We can't see you. You on the sled, bro. Where you at?
What I am going to say is this. Now, this is what did make me angry about her.
So, but let me finish. Let me get this out because I'm trying not to drink all my drink. Because it's really gone. I'm trying not to light a blunt. So I can't do this on the show. So y'all help me. So, I mean. First of all, let's go here. Just because there's a job and opportunity doesn't mean you're a perfect match for that. Sure. You have to know yourself and know your credentials and know what you can bring in order to make it successful, not only for you, but your clientele. You have to look at all spectrums of this, our business heads. We all know this. So therefore, that was like somebody who was a penny trying to talk about a dime. It's like, bruh, sir, sit your ass down and just put it in park. Don't say nothing else. Because you're trifling, you're rude, you're unprofessional. Then you went and cussed the lady. I'm like, how are you giving this and this is how you talk to your clientele? This is what life coaching is?
Because his clientele is not female. His clientele is all male.
Either way, it's just like, bruh, no, it's a hard no. So it was just so unprofessional, rude, disrespectful, and disrespectful. I mean, just to sit there and of course I was sitting, Dre, so many cuss words like, what is this?
Right.
Who is this?
Right.
I mean, you got to be a mistake for breath and skin because you're just horrid.
Not breath and skin.
Just a freaking waste.
Please invite him on the show.
Please.
Oh,
it will be like a gift.
Oh yeah, that has to go.
Yeah,
Steven,
the gifts
what
to
did you
keep on
think
giving. Yeah. Because
Oh, I mean, anytime, like you said, someone is presuming where somebody, where someone comes from, like wealth wise and things like that, you're like, okay, hold the phone. Don't like minimize her accomplishments based on whatever you think is just going to get you good clicks, and and also make comments about makeup and things like that. It's so revoltingly misogynistic that it's almost like you lose all credibility to me, that if you are going to say that on your show, then you are officially seeking to serve people who think that way, people who want women to not own businesses, to not aspire to a certain degree of financial stability, and not have standards for men, because standards are something men should have for women. It's revolting, and I would love to have him on the show.
Right.
Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
I'm now, I mean, she also made me angry. But this is why she made me angry. And oftentimes in these scenarios, women of color make me angry because I've even spoken to them and had to correct their speech. Because for some reason, if Mr. Samuels would have been a white man, her questions would have been phrased differently. But because he was black, she specifically only talked about a financial factor. She only talked about the 6 figures, and that was it. She did not talk about the whole encompassment of what a man should be. And most women of color, when they're talking to other people of color, there is this, you should know what I'm talking about. But for most black men, if a black woman puts up a price tag, she might as well put her dukes up because they're going on the attack. Point blank, period. Not about the factor that the reason that she wanted to date a man that made 6 figures is because she makes that. She really wanted some equality. She wanted financial equality. But because black women often have problems articulating those wants to men of color, because no matter how you say it, something turns on them to demonize them. Some women say education. Some women say have a price tag. Some women say, well, he needs to come from this place. But at the end of the day, the larger problem was him, because I reached out to the lady and I sent her my top 10 approaches of marrying wealthy. I give it to every female client that I have that is in search of a husband of certain caliber, because men, you have to meet men in their space. And all he needed to tell that woman was, one, if you want to meet a man that's making over 6 figures at a certain caliber, then you need to attend the things that he attends. Meaning he has to be at certain galas. He has to be at certain fundraisers. You need to be in your best gown, purchase your tickets, show up single. Don't come with your girlfriends. Show up single, because you're not going to meet someone. Because marriages in wealth are based upon relationships, just like arranged marriages. They are not. A wealthy man did not meet some woman in the bar and marry her. A wealthy man did not meet the woman in the business meeting and asked her for the date after. It would have been inappropriate. He met her at the formal function. It's why in this country, social season is still a viable source. Because what we're going to see next year So June is going to be a really hard time for us in America because May, June, and July are our largest financial months in retail because the most weddings happen during that time. They will not happen next year. Partially because not only can't people afford the weddings, but people have not been able to be out to meet people to get married.
I never thought of that.
He doesn't understand the basic social constructs at all. Because if these six-figure men, if they didn't walk into the store he works in, he would not know who they were either. He left that all out. But the way he berated her, Mr. Samuels, you have been awarded the Negro Please Award.
And I welcome you to the show.
Welcome.
Welcome, welcome, and welcome
We
again.
want you on, Mr. Samuels.
Look at that hairline, though. Look at it.
It's
Like,
right there
right.
and over here. That's
I
exactly.
know.
He's
It's
on
like
the
the hills of San Francisco.
He on the landslide right there on across his forehead and all that forehead. I'm like, bruh, you need to do way better because you're just a travesty to look at and let alone listen to. So what in the world? Just why?
Why?
Just why?
Why? Like I don't. Ooh, it made me mad. It made me so mad. It made me so mad. But so Georgians, yesterday was the last day that you could go and register to vote. If you weren't already pre-registered, early voting starts next Monday, December 14th, and the regular vote is on January 5th. So Georgians, get out here and vote because I have this. This is the most this race I feel has more excitement than the presidential race has. Or is it just me?
If David Perdue and Kelly Left win,
That's not even possible. It was rigged and bought.
Right, like watching them. I don't know if y'all saw any of the debates. They were hilarious.
Yes.
And if they win, I mean, Purdue didn't even show off to the debate by himself. Like, and then Loeffler, I'm like, somebody forgot to calibrate that machine correctly because I'm like, how did she get elected in the first place? It's insane. I don't know.
She got elected in the first place because of her money. She bought her way in.
Right.
That was like the big situation. She bought her way in because it was a special election situation. She bought her way in. But Jon Ossoff is my favorite petty person in America right now.
Oh, he is the man.
He is the man. I love him. Like, love him. Love him. Like, sadly, and if I lived in Atlanta, I would have probably voted for him before I vote for Argnoff. I'm not gonna lie. I love him.
Thankfully, you can vote for both. Oh, yeah.
I feel like he has he is everything I wanted Buttigieg to be.
I was thinking that he's Buttigieg with charisma.
He's Buttigieg with attractiveness and charisma. Like you wouldn't kick Ossoff out the bed.
And even his emails are very petty and shade-filled, you know?
I live for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
But when he decided to do that debate and put up the empty podium for Purdue that did not show, and then decided to say, and then my favorite part is him on TikTok holding the invitation that Purdue sends out for people to buy his vote.
Right.
Yeah, that part.
If Purdue wins, I don't know how. That's a done deal. Ossoff is winning. I think Loeffler is going to be where the challenge is going to be. And only that is because, you know, I'm not sure if the Republicans are going to vote
Sure.
her out. Like they definitely were going to vote out Trump in Georgia, but I don't know if they would vote her out.
Mm.
Right, because if it's a
Because-
question of control of the Senate, that's a different thing to give up.
Well, right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I'm going. It as a party loyalist, it's like.
Mhm.
But what I am going to say, which I do hope happens, January 21st, I really hope that the Democrats start on a path of loyalism because it's what saved the Republicans all these years. The loyalism of being a Republican is what got Trump voted in office in the first place. And sadly, if Trump would have just forced Mitch McConnell to give us $1,200 in a stimulus, he'd still be the president.
Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
If they would have taken COVID just a quarter serious, a quarter, not even the full gamut, just a quarter serious, gave the American people and did what all the other countries have done for their citizens for the American people, Trump would still be president, and he wouldn't be facing jail time because Letitia gonna get that ass. I'm just saying.
Mhm.
How you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm so glad to be in New York. Like I hate to say, I hope that by the time he goes to court, that we're able to go outside
And
because
celebrate.
Turn off,
I'm
yeah.
going to sit in that courtroom. I'm going to sit as press in that courtroom with my notepad and a recorder
There you
Right.
go.
because I want to see him get taken down.
We need the screens in Foley Square, like so we can all sit outside and watch. Done.
Here for it.
Please, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
gonna need this trial to. I'm gonna need it to be just like the OJ Simpson.
Fully
Everybody
tell
glued to the TV.
Yeah,
It's what I
every
want.
part. Yeah, because they have a whole new wardrobe for that orange ass.
Woo!
Orange jumpsuits and silver bracelets. How you doing?
I
Yeah.
cannot wait. Well, wow, we're 17 minutes over. So thank you guys for joining us at City Love Speaks. Next week is going to be our last episode through the holiday break. And we won't see you guys again until January, which we desperately need the break. But you will get to see, hopefully, myself and Tabitha on Ratchet, Grateful, and Blessed, RGB, during that time. Before we
Yeah.
come back in January, when this is all done and over, Tabitha will be all settled into her new fabulous home.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Things are going. We may be all going out there just to live with her so we can get to see the sunsets.
Have a little Tina Carpet things, you know.
If California lets us in, we just
They
don't
won't.
know.
Yeah, because right now it's a no. It's a hard no right now. Yeah, all the way
Because it's a
into
hard no for y'all. In a minute, me and Steven gonna be waving each other. Me and Steven are gonna be waving each other. I'm gonna have
Using
to
flags.
somehow get a string and a can and get the string
Right.
to go all the way to Brooklyn.
that'd be about
Yeah.
the best way. Yeah.
But thank you guys for joining us. We will see you next week. Don't forget to tune in to RGB on Mondays at City Love Speaks on Instagram. Don't forget also to check out our YouTube page where there is a special episode of Working It Out, talking about religion, homosexuality, and mental health. Fantastic with Damian Michaels, Daryl Hunt, and several other amazing guests. Trini the
Yes.
True, and Darren Calhoun. I
Yes.
can't remember all the names.
Right.
Amazing conversation that you want to get in,
Renee
make
George,
comments
yeah.
on. And
Mhm.
we'll be picking that conversation up again on Working It Out next season that comes back on January 15th. So have a great rest of the week. Hope you guys get all your holiday season stuff in. Make sure you're wearing a mask. Mask it
Please.
up. People in California, be safe everywhere else around the world. We love you. And as I say every week, if you don't love yourself, what? How the hell anybody else gonna love you? Have a great rest of the week. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.